Act 4, Scene 2 opens in Othello's lodgings. Enter Othello and Emilia. The pair are deep in conversation, and it appears that he has been interrogating her over what she knows about Desdemona and Cassio. You have seen nothing, then? Emilia is adamant that she has witnessed absolutely no wrongdoing on either of their parts, even though she admits that she has seen them together. But then I saw no harm, and then I heard each syllable that breath made up between them. Othello finds all this hard to believe. What? Did they never whisper? Nor send you out of the way? To fetch her fan, her gloves, her mask? No, nothing? Emilia's response to all of these questions is a steadfast, "Never, my lord." When Othello remarks that that's strange, Emilia mounts a sturdy defence of her mistress, going as far as to bet her soul against the fact that Desdemona is a faithful wife. I durst, my lord, to wager she is honest, lay down my soul at stake. In fact, she says, it would be better to remove your thought immediately, as all it does is reflect extremely badly on him. She's angry at the prospect of someone having put this evil thought into his mind. If any wretch have put this in your head, let heaven requite it, or pay it back, with the serpent's curse. Here, Emilia is referring to the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 14, when God's anger fell upon the serpent for betraying Adam and Eve. Then the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast in the field." She says that if Desdemona is not honest, chaste, and true, then no woman is. Othello sends her away to fetch his wife. Now that Othello is alone, he reveals that Emilia's words have fallen on deaf ears, as her information is about as compelling as that supplied by the foolish madam of a brothel. She says enough, yet she's a simple bawd that cannot say as much. This, or Desdemona, is a subtle or cunning whore, a closet lock and key of villainous secrets, and yet she'll kneel and pray. I've seen her do it. Note Othello's outrage at Desdemona's apparent hypocrisy, as she carries on a charade of being pious and virtuous, while simultaneously getting up to all sorts of evil in secret. Desdemona enters with Emilia. She obediently approaches Othello as he seems to address her affectionately. "Pray, Chuck, come hither." But when he orders her, "Let me see your eyes, look in my face," she is overcome by fear and confusion. What horrible fancy is this? Othello has no desire to conduct this conversation in Emilia's presence, and he rudely dismisses her, directly likening her to the madam of a brothel, whose job it is to give the whore and her customer privacy, and to stand lookout to warn them if anyone comes. "Some of your function, mistress. Leave procreants, or those having sex, alone and shut the door. Cough or cry hem if anybody come. Your mystery. Nay, dispatch." Desdemona literally throws herself at her husband's feet, imploring him to tell her what the matter is. She can tell he is angry from what he is saying, but she has absolutely no idea what he means. "Upon my knees, what doth your speech import? I understand a fury in your words, but not the words." Othello asks her what she is. She answers simply and readily, "Your wife, my lord, your true and loyal wife." He dares her to come swear it, so that she will be doubly damned, once for what she has done, and twice for lying about it. Without skipping a beat and with a genuinely clear conscience, Desdemona responds that heaven doth truly know it. "In that case," counters Othello, "what heaven truly knows is that thou art as false as hell." Desdemona is quite rightly flabbergasted, shown by her string of questions. To whom, my lord? With whom? How am I false? To Othello, who is blinded by jealous rage, these questions merely seem disingenuous, and he commands her to get away from him. Othello has begun to cry, and Desdemona is immediately compassionate. "Alas, the heavy or sorrowful day! Why do you weep? Am I the motive of these tears, my lord? She can only think that Othello's having been recalled so promptly to Venice is what has angered him, and that he suspects that Brabantio is behind it. She seeks to reassure him, however, if that is indeed the case. Her loyalty is to her husband, and to her husband alone. If Brabantio is dead to him, then he's dead to her as well. If haply you, my father, do suspect an instrument of this your calling back, lay not your blame on me. If you have lost him, I have lost him too. Othello cannot believe the audacity in her words, and that she is still taking him for a fool. He muses on the fact that he would normally be a very stoic person. Had it pleased heaven to try me with affliction, had they rained all kind of sores and shames on my bare head, steeped me in poverty to the very lips, given to captivity me and my utmost hopes, I should have found in some place of my soul a drop of patience. He complains, however, that he has been made the fixed figure for the time of scorn to point his slow, unmoving finger at. In other words, he has become a permanent object of derision and contempt that is pointed at as constantly as the numbers on a clock face are by its hands. This, he says, he could also bear. What he cannot bear, however, is that his heart, which is the very wellspring of his life, is either to be thrown away or debased, like a tank in which toads can mate and breed. To be discarded thence, or keep it as a cistern for foul toads to knot and gender in. And he challenges patience, whom he personifies as a young and rose-lipped cherubim, angel, to turn thy complexion there. In other words, what she is putting him through would try the patience of a saint, and he cannot be blamed for snapping. All Desdemona can say to this is, I hope my noble lord esteems, or considers, me honest. Oh, yes, I do, responds Othello with bitter irony. You're as honest as the summer flies are in the shambles, or the slaughterhouse, that swarm around and feed on the decaying flesh in the heat, laying their eggs, which quicken even with blowing, or which hatch as soon as they are laid. He addresses her metaphorically. O thou weed, who art so lovely fair, and smell'st so sweet that the sense aches at thee, would thou hadst ne'er been born. Weeds, even though they were pretty to look at, and were fragrant, were nevertheless regarded as inherently rank. He is suggesting here that she may be alluring on the outside, but inside she is full of sin. Desdemona is beside herself. She is desperate to know what she has done wrong without knowing. Alas, what ignorant sin have I committed? Again, Othello returns to the idea that her pure outward appearance belies the sin within. Was this fair paper, this most goodly book, made to write whore upon? He is outraged that she has the audacity to persist in keeping up this sham innocence. What committed? Committed? And he calls her nothing but a common whore. O thou public commoner! He would blush so furiously if he were to list the things that she has done, that he should make very forges of his cheeks that would to cinders burn up modesty. It's that shocking that heaven is holding its nose, and the moon, associated with chastity, is closing its eye. Even the bawdy or promiscuous wind that kisses all it meets is hushed within the hollow mine of earth and will not hear it. He concludes the speech by calling her an impudent strumpet or a cheeky whore. Desdemona defends her honour against this defamation. If to preserve this vessel, i.e. her body, for my lord from any other foul unlawful touch, be not to be a strumpet, I am none. So you're not a whore then, persists Othello. No, as I shall be saved, she responds. Oh, I do beg your pardon, replies Othello sarcastically. I mistook you for that cunning whore of Venice that married with Othello. Emilia enters, and Othello brings the conversation to a close, telling her, using language suggestive of a whore's customer, that their business is complete. He gives her money and tells her to keep all of what has gone on to herself. "We have done our course. There's money for your pains. I pray you turn the key and keep our counsel." He exits, leaving Desdemona and Emilia alone. Emilia can't believe what she has just witnessed, and she immediately asks Desdemona how she is. Desdemona is dazed by what Othello has just said to her. Faith, half asleep. When Emilia calls Othello "my lord," Desdemona professes not to know to whom she is referring. "He that is yours, sweet lady," Emilia clarifies. Desdemona responds, "I have none," and asks Emilia not to talk to her, as she cannot weep, nor answers, "Have I none but what should go by water?" In other words, the only answers she has are tears, and she is unable even to cry. She asks her to lay out the bed sheets that she and Othello used on their wedding night, urging her not to forget, and she asks her to call Iago. Left alone, Desdemona bitterly and ironically remarks that "'tis meet, or fitting, I should be used so, very meet," as she wonders what on earth it is that she has done, that he might stick the smallest opinion on my least misuse. In other words, she cannot think of anything that should have given him a reason for having a poor opinion of even her smallest fault. She is interrupted by the entrance of Iago and Emilia. When Iago, with pretend innocence, asks Desdemona how she is, she responds, "I cannot tell. Those that do teach young babes do it with gentle means and easy task. He might have chid me so, for in good faith I am a child to chiding." In other words, it would have been more than effective just to scold her gently, as is the practice with young children, because she's just not used to being told off. Upset, Emilia informs Iago that "my lord hath so behawed her," or called her a whore, and has treated her with contempt, showering her with insults, throwing such despite and heavy terms upon her as true hearts cannot bear. Note how Desdemona is so pure and innocent that she cannot even say the word that comes so freely from Emilia's lips, preferring instead to speak in an extremely convoluted manner. "Am I that name, Iago?" "What name, fair lady?" "Such as she said my lord did say I was." Emilia is outraged. He called her whore. A beggar in his drink could not have laid such terms upon his callet. In other words, even the lowest of the low, a drunken beggar, would not have used such language with his slut. Iago feigns surprise and makes a show of comforting the distraught woman. Do not weep, alas the day." Emilia is indignant that Desdemona should have given up so much, to have walked away from everything. So many noble matches, her father and her country and her friends, to be rewarded by being called whore. Iago pretends to be just as incensed as his wife. "Beshrew or curse him for it," he exclaims, before asking if they know why Othello has been acting in this way. Desdemona professes to have no idea, but Emilia, unwittingly, puts her finger right on it, as, in a moment of dramatic irony, she describes her own husband as being the interfering, lying and cheating scoundrel, anxious to better himself, who is behind it all. "I will be hanged if some eternal villain, some busy and insinuating rogue, some cogging, cozening slave to get some office have not devised this slander. I'll be hanged else." Emilia is getting uncomfortably close to the truth, and Iago makes an attempt to nip that particular line of argument in the bud. "Fie, there is no such man, it is impossible." Emilia, however, is warming to her theme and takes no notice as she rants that only a hangman's noose and everlasting torture is good enough for him. A halter pardon him, and hell nor his bones. There is no other explanation, she says. a series of rhetorical questions communicating the impossibility of Desdemona having a lover. Why should he call her whore? Who keeps her company? What place? What time? What form? What likelihood? No, she says, it's some base notorious knave, some scurvy fellow. She wishes that all villains such as he should be whipped naked through the world, even from the east to the west. Iago warns her to be quiet, but she takes no notice, complaining that some similar scoundrel did the very same to Iago himself, enraging him by making him believe that she had been unfaithful to him with Othello. Some such squire he was that turned your wit the seamy side without, and made you to suspect me with the more. Desdemona throws herself upon Iago's mercy, kneeling before him as she makes an impassioned plea for him to intervene. Note how she addresses him as good Iago and good friend. She prays that she will never again feel peace of mind if she has ever sinned or ever will sin in the future against Othello, either in spirit or in body. If e'er my will did trespass against his love, either in discourse of thought or actual deed, or that mine eyes, mine ears, or any sense delighted them in any other form, or that I do not yet, and ever did, and ever will, though he do shake me off to beggarly divorcement, love him dearly, comfort, forswear me. She swears that although his unkindness may defeat or destroy my life, that it will never taint my love. She says that she finds it difficult even to say the word whore, and now that she has actually uttered it, she feels total disgust, as though even this verbal act has made her one. It does abhor me now I speak the word. In fact, she is so revolted by this that to do the act that might the addition or title of whore earn, not the world's mass of vanity could make me. Even the promise of all the riches in the world could not persuade her to do it. Iago tries to reassure her that it is only Othello's mood, and that it is the business of the state that does him offence, which he is taking out on her. If only that were all it was, says Desdemona, but Iago cuts her off. It is but so, I warrant, i.e., I promise you. They are interrupted by the sound of trumpets within, which are the signal that the meal is ready, and that the newly arrived messengers from Venice are waiting for them. He ushers her away, urging her to weep not, as all things shall be well. Just as Desdemona and Emilia exit, an apoplectic Roderigo enters. He once more complains that Iago is not doing right by him. I do not find that thou dealst justly with me. Note how Shakespeare skilfully modulates the tempo and tone of the scene as the dialogue switches from the nobility of blank verse to the baseness of prose. He accuses Iago of putting him off all the time with excuses and of keeping him away from any opportunities which would give him even a smidgen of hope. He says that he won't tolerate it any more, and that he's not even going to keep quiet about the indignities that Iago has made him suffer thus far. Every day thou daft'st me with some device, Iago, and rather, as it seems to me now, keepest me from all conveniency than suppliest me with the least advantage of hope. I will indeed no longer endure it, nor am I yet persuaded to put up in peace what already I have foolishly suffered. He says that he will no longer listen to anything that Iago has to say, because what he says and what he does bear no resemblance to one another. Faith, I have heard too much, for your words and performances are no kin together. Iago pretends to be hurt by Roderigo's accusations. You charge me most unjustly, he responds. With naught but truth, Roderigo counters, complaining that he has wasted all his money, and that the jewels you have had from me to deliver to Desdemona would half have corrupted a votarist, i.e., would have made even a nun's sin. You have told me that she hath received them, and returned me expectations and comforts of sudden respect and acquaintance, but I find none. So not only has Iago been financing his lifestyle with Roderigo's money, but he has also taken jewels from him under false pretences, telling him that he has given them to Desdemona on his behalf, and promising him that Desdemona would, in return, offer him encouragement and attention. None of this, however, has been forthcoming. Rather than try to defend himself, Iago takes a different approach. Well, go to, very well, as he pretends that he is not remotely bothered by what Roderigo has to say, and that, if that's how he feels, there's nothing he can do. They will just part company. Roderigo is incensed. Very well, go to. I cannot go to, man, nor 'tis not very well. By this hand I say 'tis very scurvy, and begin to find myself fopped in it, i.e. of having been fooled by it. Very well, or so be it, says a maddeningly casual Iago. I tell you 'tis not very well, explodes an irate Roderigo, and he threatens to expose the whole situation. I will make myself known to Desdemona. If she will return me my jewels, I will give over my suit and repent my unlawful solicitation. If not, assure yourself I will seek satisfaction of you. In other words, he intends to speak to Desdemona directly, ask her to return the jewels and give up his improper courtship of her. If he can't do this, he will seek repayment directly from Iago. Iago asks him if he has finished speaking his mind. Ay, and said nothing but what I protest intendment of doing, Roderigo responds. Iago pretends to be impressed by Roderigo's forthrightness, and concedes that his reaction is a reasonable one, even though he protests that he has dealt with the matter nothing but honestly. Why, now I see there's mettle in thee, and even from this instant do build on thee a better opinion than ever before. Give me thy hand, Roderigo. Thou hast taken against me a most just exception. But yet I protest I have dealt most directly in thy affair. It doesn't look that way, sniffs Roderigo. I can see how you might think that, concedes Iago, and your suspicion is not without wit and judgment. He then proceeds to flatter the foolish young man, saying that he believes that he has purpose, courage, and valour, and challenges him to prove him right that night, and if he does, if thou the next night following enjoy not Desdemona, take me from this world with treachery and devise engines for my life. In other words, if you're not in bed with her this time tomorrow night, you will have every right to kill me. Iago has piqued Roderigo's interest, as he knew he would, and Roderigo demands more details, asking if what he is proposing is realistically achievable. Well, what is it? Is it within reason and compass? Iago informs him of what we already know, that the delegation from Venice has come to replace Othello with Cassio, and he then puts in doubt Roderigo's reasonable assumption that that means they will return to Venice. Oh no, he goes into Mauritania and takes away with him the fair Desdemona, unless his abode be lingered here by some accident, wherein none can be so determinate as the removing of Cassio. We don't know if the letter actually contained instructions for Othello to leave for the country of Mauritania in Western Africa. It could just as easily be a ruse dreamed up by Iago to imply that Desdemona will be taken far away from Roderigo, which should spur him to immediate action. Iago suggests that the most effective accident that can occur to keep Othello in Cyprus is the removing of Cassio, the man destined to take his place, by making him incapable of Othello's place, by knocking out his brains. He informs Roderigo that Cassio, ignorant of the fact that he has just become the governor of Cyprus, plans to sup tonight with harlotry, Bianca in other words, and that he intends to go there himself so that he can influence the time that he leaves. Roderigo is to wait outside and attack him. Iago reassures him that he will be there too to second your attempt, or back him up. The scene ends with Roderigo not entirely won over to the plan and demanding further justification for it, which Iago promises to supply. I will hear further reason for this, and you shall be satisfied. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques, and English literature texts.